And if you are a good sleeper, there is nothing any worse than laying in bed.
Yes, I'm convinced that if I die and go to hell, I'll just be laying in a bed awake.
Me too.
Oh, if you are a good sleeper, there is.
There you go.
Yeah, I can go to bed holding a cup of coffee, or go to sleep holding.
Oh, I can too.
So,
The other night, I actually had coffee like just before bed.
oh, I do too. Every now and then.
Caffeinated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Well, I mean that's part of my ADD though.
Oh, that's right.
well, I didn't realize I don't think I'm ADD, but we have a common characteristic, because I know I'm not ADD, but I can go to sleep holding a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
But-
caffeine does not
Doesn't bother
affect
me at all. So
Yeah, I mean, but no, it doesn't. But because of my ADD, caffeine doesn't do
yeah.
caffeine doesn't do anything.
I'm very caffeine sensitive.
So
I'll go to sleep, and then after I've had enough to be rested, I'm wide awake and ready to party.
All right.
oh,
But no, moving was difficult this morning.
but I'm sure.
Well, but it's not just that one. It's all the other games that have added up.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I think we had one day game in all of the playoffs. All the rest of them were like 9 o'clock, and even in the ACC tournament, all our games were at 9.
Yeah.
Mhm. Your daddy's still asleep. I decided not to wake him up since he didn't have anywhere he had to go today.
Nope.
Yeah. Well, it was probably because I did some other things to to unwind. And it was a little after 1:30 when I went to bed. So
Mhm.
I did wake up with my radio at 6:30, but I didn't get up at all. And I fell back to sleep about 8:30 probably. And woke up at 9:30. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell them about the wonderful drug.
Right.
Those drugs are out there, but no, I mean,
no.
the game ended at what?
Oh,
11:30,
I'm not.
11:45.
It was late.
Mhm.
Yeah, I read something this morning that Armando Baycott's injury was
Right.
because the floor gave away.
Ooh.
I read that too.
Oh, that's bad.
And that was a turnover with the Tar Heels down by 1 with 50 seconds left.
Oh, yeah. Right. That's also a lawsuit about to happen, if that's true.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Well, they
Well,
said
maybe if somebody lost a bet.
Yeah.
your aunt lost her bracket had Carolina winning, and if she was the only one that had Carolina winning in her group, she would have won $1,000.
Oh, my.
Was she the only one that had them there, though? Did somebody have Kansas winning?
Everybody else had Kansas winning.
Oh. Well, I couldn't be upset. I mean, Kansas came out and they outplayed North Carolina. And it wasn't that North Carolina played poorly. They didn't hit well, but Kansas just played great. I mean,
They really did.
and so Tar Heels weren't supposed to be there anyway. And we beat Duke.
Right.
And, and we beat Duke.
Right.
Yeah.
Twice,
It's
yes.
State with Carolina. And we beat Carolina every now and then, but not lately.
And here's the truth. 10 years from now, other than Kansas fans, nobody, well, and probably Tar Heel fans, nobody's going to remember who won this championship. but everyone who's a basketball fan will remember that North Carolina beat Duke.
Yes, you're right. Every Carolina fan will remember they beat.
You know, the only reason that I remember who Duke beat after they beat UNLV is because North Carolina lost to Kansas that year. When Duke beat UNLV in the Final Four, North Carolina was on the other end of that Final Four. That's the game that Dean Smith got kicked out of.
Oh, really? Yeah. See,
because he asked how much time was left, and they threw him out. And Roy Williams was very angry about that because he was coaching Kansas. But anyway, all right, let's pray.
Okay.
Gracious God, as we gather here today, waiting to see what's coming this afternoon, we ask for your blessings. Keep us safe then, and bless us now as we study your word in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
What are y'all expecting this afternoon?
Horrible weather. In fact, schools are half day.
Oh,
I'm actually canceling Bible study for tonight. And I would be surprised if my gym is open this afternoon.
oh my gosh.
They have a meeting upstairs at 6:30. Unless it's really bad, we're still going to be doing that.
I don't know, Teresa. Here's what I'm doing. The email's going to say we're canceling Bible study, but if weather clears up, we'll have it.
Yeah.
But see, here's the thing. It's supposed to, like, looking at my weather, there's like from 3 to 6, it's supposed to be really bad.
Yeah.
Which is when Bible study starts, and it's when your meeting happens.
Yeah.
So, and incidentally, that door to the upstairs,
Yeah.
is a torrential downpour when it's raining.
Usually I come in the front door and then I go inside and then unlock the other front door for the other ladies to come in. And then we take the elevator upstairs.
Yeah. It's your call, but
It was up to them. I said, it's up to y'all whether you want to have the meeting or not. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other. So,
what meeting is it?
it's my women's group.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, we just meet once a month and we've been using Pisgah.
Great place to do it. I'm glad we're open and available for you to do that.
And most of them are Lutheran anyway, so it works.
Well, that's good. That's good. All right. We are in Proverbs 22. And Proverbs 22 is actually broken up. The first 17 verses and then the rest of them follow. And you'll see why in just a little bit. But let's begin with 1 to 7. So it's Proverbs about riches and consequences. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, and favor is better than silver or gold. The rich and the poor have this in common: the Lord is the maker of them all. The clever see danger and hide, but the simple go on and suffer for it. The reward for humility and fear of the Lord is riches and honor in life. Thorns and snares are in the way of the perverse. The cautious will keep far from them. Train children in the right way, and when old, they will not stray. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Read through those, and then we will talk about them.
Maybe you sound a little bit loud. I think it's the refrigerator. I think it's raining too. I don't see it going on.
Okay. So what do you see there?
Many verses that I grew up listening to being paraphrased.
Yes.
Oh, the obviously verse 1 and verse 6 I heard all my life in different wordings.
What were some of those wordings? Do you remember?
Well, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart.
Or from it. Yeah.
Well, that's not a paraphrase of that. That's just a different translation.
Well, it probably is. Okay. Because again, it was a quote that I heard many times. And I actually have used it. I've used it lately. Well,
you hear your mama's voice in your head forever.
Yes, you do. And you become the mama's voice in your.
Yeah.
Well,
just so happens I have the ability to look up and make sure, because I think that might be the King James version.
it may be
It
because
is.
that's what I grew up.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, that's exactly what I grew up with. So
Me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I figured that sounds more like a direct quote than anything else.
yeah, well, that's. I would have had a hard time paraphrasing it because I never heard a paraphrase.
Well, all right. What else do we hear?
I like number 2. That reminds rich and poor are both made by God, just in case you think you're better than somebody else.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
going along with that, you also have, and I'm not sure where this one is from, but the fact that rain falls upon the everybody. It rains on the good and the not good.
I think that might be in there somewhere.
It may be. I'm not sure where it is.
Sounds
but
like a proverb. I don't know that we've heard it yet, have we?
I don't think we have, but it does sound like one. But it does say that God created all of us, and that He doesn't cause bad things to happen to bad people, or good to happen to good.
Rain falls on the righteous and the unrighteous. Let's see.
Oh, okay.
That's not a proverb. That's from Matthew.
Okay.
Mm.
But it could be a proverb. It sounds like a proverb.
It does. Well, sometimes Jesus would throw those in.
Yes.
I do. And the one thing that stands out to me is a good name is to be chosen rather than riches.
Well, and the NIV says, and a good name is more desirable, which is going along with that chosen thing, that you would want a good name more than you would want riches.
Yeah. So if you have a choice between riches and honor, you pick honor.
Right. Which sometimes would be what would happen, because in some of the other proverbs, we've been warned about that riches can lead people astray.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the search for riches and what you're willing to do for it.
Most certainly. And then I also like the borrower is a slave to the lender.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is most certainly true.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next part. Unless y'all have anything else for that one. Eight to 16. Proverbs about speaking and judgments. Whoever sows injustice will reap calamity, and the rod of anger will fail. Those who are generous are blessed, for they share their bread with the poor. Drive out a scoffer and strife goes out. Quarreling and abuse will cease. Those who love a pure heart and are gracious in speech will have the king as a friend. The eyes of the Lord keep watch over knowledge, but he overthrows the words of the faithless. The lazy person says, there is a lion outside. I shall be killed in the streets. The mouth of a loose woman is a deep pit. He with whom the Lord is angry falls into it. Folly is bound up in the heart of a boy, but the rod of discipline drives it far away. Oppressing the poor in order to enrich oneself and giving to the rich will lead only to loss. Okay, read through those and then we'll talk about them. All right. So what stands out? What questions do you have? Et cetera, et cetera.
13.
13.
Just seems to be out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. So what that is saying is basically it's an example of an excuse that a lazy person would use to get out of work.
Oh, okay.
There's a lion in the streets and I'll get eaten if I go out there. And then it's kind of coupled with 14. And we heard a lot about loose women in the beginning, but then when we get to the collection of Proverbs, like the second section of this book, we actually haven't heard a lot about the loose and perverse women. But it's also a reversal in 14, because what we heard before is that like the wrath of God would come upon you when you did that. This one says that the wrath of those who fall into God's wrath fall prey to that. And so it has to do with speech and words. And so, basically God guards you against foolishness and poor words, and maybe stops guarding you if you tick God off, according to this.
Mhm.
So, and how do you tick God off according to Proverbs? Well, you don't fear God or walk in his ways.
Right.
6 and 15 are very close.
Yes, they are.
It's the old spare the rod and spoil the child.
Mhm.
Well, but also it says boys will be boys, but they'll keep being boys if you don't stop it.
Very true.
And you don't laugh at it and think it's cute when they're little and expect them to know what's right when they're older.
That's right. Absolutely.
Well, yeah. I know someone that used to laugh when we were being cute and nasty, and had 6 senses of humor, and it didn't stop now that we're adults. He happened to be the primary disciplinarian in our home, as a matter of fact, until we would say things that were inappropriate at the dinner table, and then he would laugh. And now my brother and I continue to say inappropriate things at the dinner table. And he doesn't know his own name, but he still laughs. So, what else?
Well, number 10, drive out a scoffer and strife goes out and quarreling and abuse will cease. We actually saw that at Beth Eden, which is the church before we left. And this Bill wasn't pastor then. But when the ELCA voted to let gay pastors be a part of the ordination process and all that, we had some people that got very angry, and they created a whole different atmosphere. That church had been very loving and generous and kind, and when you walked in, it had a feeling of, oh, what am I going to say something wrong? Am I going to insult somebody? And a whole group of them decided that the ELCA was no longer for them, and they left. And amazingly, the whole atmosphere of the church changed.
Not amazingly. Not amazingly. I know some folks left when Pisgah went through that. Was there a lot of strife before they left, though?
Not a lot. No.
I didn't think so. I didn't think so. They kind of,
No, it was not an open.
Pisgah just sort of, people made the decision for themselves and didn't take others with them.
Right.
Yeah.
And part of that may be because we had openly gay people here that everyone loved, probably including the people that left, to be honest with you. And that makes a difference.
The Beth Eden group wanted Beth Eden to leave the ELCA and campaigned very hard for it.
I think Dan came out right up front and said that wasn't a possibility, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For Pisgah.
Jane was pastor. Oh, you mean?
Dan, no, here,
Oh, okay.
Pisgah. Well, but Dan had a little more clout than Jane did. I mean, Dan had been here for, well, at that time, 5 years. No, oh no. He came in 99, maybe.
No, before that. 95, I think.
That's
Okay, so he had been there for like 14 years.
Right. He was rather entrenched.
Yeah, so, and Jane had been there, what, 1, 2?
Maybe 2.
When did Dad retire?
Also, you know, she and Mitch voted for the
Oh, yeah.
ordination. And
Well, yeah, they were voting members, but what? No, but when did Dad retire?
what? That set it off.
When did Dad retire?
2007.
Yeah, I thought so. So yeah, so she had been there for 2 years, and yeah, I guess because they were voting members,
Yeah.
they had a hand in the decision. But no, Pisgah handled it very, very well. Pilgrim handled it very, very well, but then it reared its ugly head this year or last year, which I'm just like, Why are you going to complain about it 12 years later? I mean, didn't that ship sail already? You can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. So let's move on to 17. Now, this is a change not only in this chapter, but in the entire book. Proverbs, I think we talked about this at the beginning, is broken up into 3 sections. This is section 3, which for those of you who have been with my Bible studies, those of you who are pre-COVID with my Bible studies know that I often complained about the numberers, the people that did the chapters and stuff. There's no reason this should not have started a new chapter. It started a new section of the book, and yet it's in the middle of chapter 22. Verse 17 starts out, the words of the wise. And now what we will hear over the remainder is, for one, we're not sure how much of this is attributed to Solomon anymore. And for two, it's a lot of what we're going to hear is like a recap. So the first few chapters of this will be like the first 9 chapters of Proverbs, that they're written. It's not like a 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 kind of thing. It's a little, it's different than that. And then what you have is it will be a section of those quick 1-verse Proverbs, and then they'll go back to something else. But we'll hear a lot of repeats from what we've heard, because I guess this is maybe this is the review before the final exam. I don't know.
Yeah.
So pay attention, give sound answers to the one who sends. Well, that sounds like the beginning of a review, doesn't it? The words of the wise. Incline your ear and hear my words, and apply your mind to my teaching, for it will be pleasant if you keep them within you, if all of them are ready on your lips, so that your trust may be in the Lord. I have made them known to you today. Yes, to you. Have I not written for you 30 sayings of admonition and knowledge to show you what is right and true, so that you may give a true answer to those who sent you? So read through that briefly, and then we will talk about it. Okay, so what are y'all hearing there?
Pay attention.
Yes, ma'am.
Listen up.
Yes. Listen up. Pay attention.
30 sayings that it says he's already written for them. Have we read them?
Mm-hmm. That was previous chapters, right?
I don't know.
That's what I took it to be.
Let me look. Okay.
That's not right.
I would think we've had at least 30, but it may be like when I would start, when my parents or my grandmother would want to say this kind of thing to me, it would be, I've told you 1,000 times.
Right.
And the number would vary depending on how excited they were about what I was doing. you know, it would be either 1,000 times or 100 times or 1,000,000 times, you know, depending on, you know, how frustrated they were that I was yet doing it again.
Okay, what verse is that with the 30?
20.
Verse 20.
It actually doesn't say. At least in mine. Let's see if my Bible says anything. 30 sayings. A Minim Opie is composed of 30 sections. It's not clear how there are 30 units in this collection. But it could be a symbolic number, Diane. You may be right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Diane's explanation.
So anything else in here? Now, and it may also be that their writings were broken up differently than ours. We're on chapter 22. Maybe they were on chapter 31.
Right.
I mean, that is pure conjecture and speculation. Just know that. But that is a possibility because our numbering came later. And so the way they divided it may have been in a different 30. And, you know, maybe they had been in class for a month. I don't know, but I still like Diane's.
Yeah.
That it's a symbolic number.
And also, it actually is good teaching because that's what teachers are supposed to do when you begin a lesson is you always say why it's important. And that's what this is doing and justifying the importance of what you're about to convey again to them and why they should listen.
Yeah. Most certainly. Most certainly. All right. Well, let's finish it up.
Listen up, people.
Sayings of counsel and knowledge, 22 to 29. Do not rob the poor because they are poor, or crush the afflicted at the gate. For the Lord pleads their cause and despoils of life those who despoil them. Make no friends with those given to anger, and do not associate with hotheads, or you may learn their ways and entangle yourself in a snare. Do not be one of those who give pledges, who become surety for debts. If you have nothing with which to pay, why should your bed be taken from under you? Do not remove the ancient landmark that your ancestors set up. Do you see those who are skillful in their work? They will serve kings. They will not serve common people. Well, all righty. Let's talk about those.
Jeremy.
All right, folks. Anything there?
Well, I was wondering about 28. I first was going to say that this was like the Cliff Notes version of what we've been talking about for a while. But then there were things in here that I don't remember, that it's like a summation kind of thing. This about moving an ancient boundary stone. I didn't know if that was intended to be like it's like an analogy, whether that that boundary stone was physical or a behavioral limit set by your forefathers. I wasn't sure what 28 was.
Well, let's look. The prohibition here against moving the boundary stone stands alone with no accompanying motivation or reason. A reason is given in the similar 23-10. The personal pronoun emphasizing your forefathers implies that the person on the other side of the property line is kin. The only other reference to the boundary marker in Proverbs names the widow. To move that marker for financial gain is therefore to defraud those most vulnerable. If Proverbs 22, 24, and 25, and 26, 27 are about self-protection, surrounding verses 23 and 28 are directed towards protecting and caring for the powerless of society.
Okay. So it sounds like it has some actual physical interpretation, but also some behavioral meanings, like when you say taking care of the poor and not taking advantage.
Yeah.
But it did sound like
So the landmark, I mean, for us, a landmark is like a historical landmark. For them, a landmark was a land marker.
okay. Well, I guess it's sort of like property lines.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. It's property lines.
Corner pins.
Which again, that's what it's Proverbs. And so it would not be Proverbs unless we didn't put some random things in there.
Yeah.
Make no friends to those who are given anger and do not associate with hotheads, or you may learn their ways and entangle yourself with a snare. How many guys get in fights because their buddy is an idiot?
Mm-hmm.
And their buddy runs his mouth, and so a bunch of guys are about to fight him, but you can't let them jump on your buddy without, you got to step up. Thankfully, that's never happened to me. And I would be one much more to try to bring peace and all that than throwing down. But I know people.
Yeah, and sometimes we fight with words instead of physical fighting as well. And we sometimes leap to the defense of a hothead when might be better off to just sort of remain calm.
Yes. I also don't be one of those who gives pledges, who becomes surety for debts. If you have nothing with which to pay, why should your bed be taken from under you? So you get your bed repoed because somebody else couldn't pay their debts back.
Right.
I mean, this is a big thing, apparently.
Yeah. In other words, don't be stupid.
Yeah. But it's interesting. It talks about, don't borrow money, but more so, don't,
Loan it.
well, not only don't loan it, don't co-sign for it.
Right.
Well, when you co-sign, you're loaning it. That's your word.
Yeah. Well, and but you don't make any profit.
No.
You're loaning it with nothing, no benefits. All you're doing is accepting the risk.
Mhm.
Yes.
Which is stupid. I'm sorry. That's just stupid.
Yeah. Especially like it says here, if you don't have the money to pay, if you can't cover the debt for somebody else's debt, then don't be signing for their debt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Again, it goes back to one of my 2 youth rules.
Mhm.
Rule number 2, don't be stupid. And don't rob the poor because they're poor.
Mhm.
Now that could actually be taken 2 ways. Don't rob them just because they're poor. I mean, like, don't take advantage of them.
Mhm.
But it could also mean don't rob poor people because they don't have anything to rob. There are 2 ways to read that sentence.
Yeah.
Don't rob poor people because they're poor, or don't rob poor people because they're poor, but then I guess, or crush the afflicted at the gate, for the Lord pleads their cause. And in other words, God's on their side, which again is interesting because they do have somewhat of a prosperity theology.
Mhm. Yeah.
That God blesses the rich and the poor have been cursed. But in Proverbs, that's slightly flipped. And not just in Proverbs, though. Also, like in the prophets, where it talks about don't that God's basically blowing you up because you messed up the poor. And some of that may be because, it says the victor writes the victor writes the history, and maybe the wealthy wrote the theology. And they would, because they would be the more educated. Of course, we're the blessed ones. And you're the cursed ones. And so some of that may be going on too. But then coming from Solomon, he had no dog in that fight. He was a king. And so he was looking at rich and poor as different than other people, because his wealth was just always there, really. He was the king. I don't know if that makes sense, but you're muted, Mom.
22, verse 22 and verse 2. If you think that both are made by God, then
Mhm.
they're both important to God. So don't take advantage.
Yeah. Yes. And again, this is a reminder to the people that presumably would not end up being poor. And probably weren't poor at the time, because the poor children would have had to work. They would not have been sent to be educated.
Yeah.
And so
29, I don't exactly understand.
People that are good at what they do serve kings, not regular people. So excel in what you do.
Okay.
You know, if you can make a craftsman would sell expensive furniture and a woodworker would sell birdhouses. You know, one would work for a king and one would just work. So be good at what you do. Anything else?
Yeah.
All right. Well, y'all stay safe and I will see you at some point. Have a great day.